This is Alexander Scott, a member of LANS, presenting this edition of our weekly updates. Before we continue, please visit our website at jalans.org or follow us on social media. Our Twitter handle is @lans_ja. First, we will begin by looking at the recent data breach of the JAMCOVID app. On February 17th of this year, the website TechCrunch ran an article titled "Jamaica's Immigration Website Exposed Thousands of Travelers." The article stated that a security lapse by the contractor exposed the records and test results for thousands of travelers, potentially thousands of travelers, who have visited the island over the past year. This was followed up by an article in the Gleaner on February 18th titled "Data Breach Blowback, JAMCOVID Exposure, a Treasure Trove for Scammers, Experts Say," which stated that the exposed data, if it were to end up in the hands of scammers, then they would have a field day utilizing that information in illicit means. And it would also be a lot harder for the victims to rectify the situation, what with such sensitive information already out there. This was followed up by yet another revelation by the author of the original TechCrunch article, that the app was still unsecure and vulnerable. This revelation was met by a denial by the app maker itself, the Amber Group, and in response to this back and forth, the government came out and said that the data which was being housed through cloud storage would be moved to a more secure facility. Then on Thursday night going into Friday morning, it was discovered that the website, the JAMCOVID website, was temporarily down. And in an article, again by the Gleaner, this time quoting the initial author of the TechCrunch article, it was stated that he had informed the government of another security lapse, which had exposed the quarantine orders of 500,000 travelers. Following on from that, the government also said that they will be reviewing the security of all government websites and government networks to ensure their strength and that there have been no breaches. Now, this event is worrying on many levels, but just to pick out two. The first one, the first worrying level is that it's done the obvious damage, which the opposition has already spoken about, in that it seriously harmed whatever little trust there was people had to enroll in the national identification system. This is going to make it more difficult to enroll people in that database, simply because they no longer trust that their information is going to be stored securely. Also worrying is that the person who brought this issue to the attention of the government, at least according to the Gleaner article, they're stating that they brought this information to the government earlier than when the government is stating, and again according to the Gleaner, it now appears to the individual anyway that he's under investigation. We as a nation cannot afford to be this reluctant to be transparent when it comes to potential data breaches and dealing with whistleblowers. And as a nation which suffers from high levels of crime and high levels of corruption in all areas of society, we quite frankly should not be treating whistleblowers in this negative way or giving the impression that we are targeting them. If any potential whistleblower is found to be lying, that can be dealt with after looking at the information they have presented. But to start off on the premise that we are investigating the whistleblower for potential wrongdoing is backwards. That is a backward step, and one which will only lead to fewer and fewer persons who are willing to speak publicly about issues like this or other issues which we need to have exposed to the public and which we need to be dealing with. We at LANS hope that it's not a case where the whistleblower the person who stumbled upon this data breach is under investigation, that this is all just a big misunderstanding. However, if it is the case that this person is under investigation, we hope that the matter is dropped, at least for now, and that the data breach is looked at. If it turns out that this person played a role in the data breach and the data breach took place for nefarious purposes, then we can deal with them. But until then, we should not be hounding whistleblowers. A centralized and streamlined national identification system is a good idea. It's a great idea, and it's a system which is needed in Jamaica, where, for example, a person needs 3 pieces of information and a JP approval to open a bank account. On the face of this, this is perfect, but this is a huge risk for the citizen to enter in if the security systems are this lax. The data protection laws must be given more teeth. The act must be implemented, and it must be used to safeguard people's information from situations like this. And if we do ever come across a situation like this again, if lapses do occur, then they must be owned up and fixed immediately. They must be owned up to and fixed immediately. The citizens of this country have every right to be suspicious of those who lead us and those who want to lead us. And it is therefore up to them to convince us by their actions that our suspicions are misplaced. In this instance, we have been proven, we the citizens that is, we have been proven correct in our suspicion. They now need to show us that this national identification system, which again is much needed, is something we can put faith in, that it will not be abused. It is up to them now to show us that they're doing the right thing, that they can be trusted to do the job, and that any issues will be dealt with both quickly and transparently. Next, we will discuss the continued protests in Haiti. In an article from the Jamaica Observer titled "Regional Leaders Urge Haiti to Hold Elections as Soon as Possible," the CARICOM heads of government called on Haiti to hold elections. This call for elections in Haiti by the regional body came after a 2-day meeting in which Mr Moise of Haiti presented a report on the situation on the ground in Haiti for CARICOM to compare alongside a report done by the Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM, who was tasked with crafting his own report assessing the situation. This call for elections also came shortly after it was announced by the United States Embassy in Haiti, and also reported on by the Miami Herald, that the Colombian police, a police force who are renowned for partaking in extrajudicial killings and political violence, would be quote-unquote assisting the Haitian police in training after a wave of kidnappings have taken place. Now, the fears of the protesters are that these forces, the Colombian police forces, will, instead of being used to deal with the kidnappings, will instead be used to bolster the Haitian police force itself as they continue their crackdown on protests. Such fears are heightened by the fact that Mr Moise wishes to hold an illegal referendum to amend the constitution in order to allow him to run for another term in office. And I say illegal because the Haitian constitution states that Parliament alone can amend the constitution. Now, in spite of all of this, the protests against Mr Moise, which began in 2018, have continued, and the demand of the protesters that he demits office as per the constitution remains. He should have demitted office on February the 7th. We at Lands welcome this statement by CARICOM, even if it does not go far enough. We also stand with the Haitian people and their noble cause of ousting their corrupt puppet leader, and their desire to install a leader who has at the front of their mind the plight and needs of the Haitian workers. Mr. Moise, lest we forget, is a man who is mired in corruption allegations and scandals, and is the product of a fraudulent and globally condemned election, as was noted by the CARICOM report and even the BBC. This election saw him assume office. It took place in 2015, and it had to be redone in 2016. CARICOM must go further than simply demanding elections in Haiti. We must call out the intervention of the Colombian police, because this is just a backdoor way of maintaining United States and Canadian dominance in Haiti. We as a regional bloc, as a group, we must intervene and assist our regional ally and or bloc member, a country that is a member state. We must ensure that it's the Haitian people and not outside powers or internal moneyed power which selects their leader and dictates their policies, both internal and external. It needs to be left to the Haitian people to decide who their leader is and how their country is run. For the sake of the First Black Republic, we in this region, we in this CARICOM, we must ensure that Haiti is free from oppression. And for the sake of, again, Latin America as a whole, we must ensure that Haiti is free and allowed to chart her own course, because as has historically been the case, whatever happens in Haiti is going to be meted out elsewhere. So we need to defend this. And finally, we will end with the continued impact of COVID-19 locally and the government's response. In an article by Nationwide News titled "MAJ Warns Government May Soon Have to Consider Countrywide Lockdown Amid COVID-19 Surge," the MAJ president called for a general work-from-home order to be implemented as the nation faces a rise in COVID-19 cases, which have now overwhelmed hospitals. Mr. Manning of the MAJ continued by stating that he is looking forward to the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine in an effort to combat this virus. It was also reported that the Cornwall Regional Hospital, the University Hospital of the West Indies, and the Mandeville Regional Hospital have all reached full capacity, and that patients are now facing increased wait times. And this is on top of what was already a long wait time, in order to be seen by the medical staff, and that the medical staff are now being overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients. This is on top of news reports that the nurses, that we are short a vast number of nurses, and therefore not just doctors, but the nurses especially are totally overwhelmed by this massive influx of COVID-19 patients. In another piece titled "Vaccine Cry to Biden," CARICOM appeals to the United States. It says, being squeezed out by rich countries. Dr. Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago stated that CARICOM will be sending a letter to the United States asking that they share their supply of their COVID-19 vaccines. Dr. Rowley noted that if CARICOM as a region is deprived of these vaccines, then new variants of this virus may very well evolve. They may very well be more virulent and stronger, and that any progress made globally on the front of fighting this vaccine would immediately be lost and undone. And in continuing that, he stated that rich countries and big medical suppliers, almost in tandem it seems, have bought all the supplies and of the COVID-19 vaccine, that is, and that suppliers of the vaccine are now saying that they cannot process the orders of CARICOM nations that were making to get the COVID vaccine because of these prior commitments, the prior commitments to the big rich countries and to the big suppliers which have bought an odious amount of stocks of the COVID vaccine. That comes almost immediately after. It came a day after a TVJ news report which stated that the first batch of vaccines, which Jamaica was due to receive in mid-February, in mid-February, mind you, has not yet arrived, and this is despite us signing agreements with the COVAX facility, which is to supply them. Now, the call for a work-from-home order is a welcome one, and it's one which we at LAND support, and it's one which we have been making. It makes no sense having a curfew, which by its very definition is to lessen human interaction and at the same time force people to commute to work. The images we're seeing from half a tree when it comes near curfew show us people being forced into close proximity and dangerously close proximity when you bear in mind COVID, all in order to get home. And the situation in the morning getting to work is not much better. If we as a country are to have any chance of getting a hold of this ever-increasing surge, the numbers, then we must limit the human movement, and the easiest and most cost-efficient way to do that is to enact a work-from-home order. In doing that, companies which have the ability and the facilities to do that will do that, and the companies that can't do that won't do that. And what that will simply mean is that the people who work for the companies that have the means to have their workers work from home, they will stay home. They will stay home in their droves, whereas those who can't work from home will continue to go out, and that will drastically reduce the number of people on the road, especially if you maintain the curfew. This, we think, would really help in curtailing these numbers, and is something we really think we need to be implementing at this point. Now, the scenario in which we're seeing rich countries hoarding vaccine stocks and poor countries unable to even access the vaccine, even through the mandated facilities such as the COVAX facility, this is something which many individuals and groups, including LANDs, have warned about, especially when the news broke of the success of the various vaccines. This is an area where geopolitics has come into play, and where petty, small-minded nationalism on the part of the rich countries is often, it seems, the driving force behind decisions made regarding the distribution of the vaccine. We at LAND condemn this vaccine nationalism. People's lives are not and should not be the playthings of the rich and powerful, and it is shameful that our government has left us in this situation. Nations such as Russia, India, Cuba, and China all have vaccines which are in use or are on their way to being used, and we've not accepted one of them. And the proof of this is from the Russian ambassador, where in a Galena article they stated that we, Jamaica, were offered their vaccine, but we have not yet accepted. The fear of upsetting or losing favor with the United States should not be the driving force behind our health policies. We are an independent nation, and as such should be looking to get these vaccines from wherever they are available. We cannot continue to depend on the global north for help. We are but an afterthought to them. We must engage in deeper south-south links and trade if we are going to make it out of this, and we at LANDS hope that this acts as the final push for the government and the people to realize that such links are needed, and that we need to engage in these south-south links. And if the government does not realize it, then the people must realize it and insist that the government act accordingly. Once again, this is Alexander Scott.